Delighted to welcome you, Professor Meyer. Such a pleasure to have you in AISTS India. With all your experience, and not just the fact that you lecture, but you're also a consultant. So you've seen this field very closely. So Professor Meyer is, of course, in many ways chronicles the change that is happening in the world of sport, communication, various stakeholders, the implications has in terms of our lives, socially, economically, politically, the whole discussion around also sustainability. So we talk about some of these issues. But tell me, how do you see the role of communication changing in sport?
It's a dramatic change. But before that, we are in sports, right? So I'm Lutz. I'm not Professor Meyer. I would be asked to stay in that terms. No, I mean the last decade has changed everything in terms of communications in sports, but also in the corporate world. And sports and corporate world, business are aligning more and more. We used to have time to prepare what to say, when, where, how, by whom. And today, in a 24/7, 365 environment with the iPhone permanently switched on, you have no choice but to be prepared permanently, to be under surveillance by your stakeholders, by the general public, by a huge fan community. Whatever you as an athlete or a functionary, what you say or what you tweet or what you post is immediately in the public domain. So trying to manage communications without a huge degree of preparedness and being prepared, preparedness to communicate, but only to communicate what is relevant. So to have a script in mind permanently, but also to be prepared for crisis situations that will come inevitably for an athlete, a club, an association, a federation, or a governing body. So unprecedented change, permanently on guard, as we would say in France, or permanent French, permanently prepared to react and proactively engage.
So like you rightly said, that right now if you see top athletes, clubs, administrators, they're live 24/7. So there's an athlete who's coming back after a match, they tweet something about the match, or about the journey, or about the food that they eat, or respond to a particular situation, which could be a stressful situation. Obviously, you are a role model for so many people, so it puts a sense of responsibility on you in terms of what you communicate, what messaging goes down to young people. Do you see a lot of the top sportsmen and the top athletes and clubs undergoing a lot of training on communication?
Yeah, absolutely. You said role model. I think clubs, advisors to athletes and association need to educate athletes who are going into a competitive career and become pros, need to undergo certain training and education to sensibilize them about their role model for so many billions of young people who admire them, who follow them, and who would follow their advice. Their advice goes into the commercial side if they may buy the shirt or the shoes that they are promoting, but they're also listening what they say about society, what they say about behavior, and what they say about other aspects of sustainability, be it diversity, be it inclusion. All aspects of society are relevant, and the athletes need to be aware of it, and they need to adhere to their role. That comes with a pinch of salt. If you look at here in India, the post-match interviews of many players, except for the top athletes who are icons, but also very strong characters. And usually these are the older ones who are passing towards the end of their careers. It all sounds stereotype what they answer. when they've done perfectly well on the pitch, they come, the journalist asks, and they say, oh, it was not my pretty asked question, oh, you did fantastically, do you feel great? Well, it was not about me, it was about the team. We did it and we are thankful for the fans supporting us. This is all media trained, and that is good, because we want, as an organization, as a club, as a federation, association, we want to have consistency in our messaging towards the various stakeholders in order to get certain messages, behaviors, values across, in line with the business strategy of the club. But this makes, on the other hand, makes it a bit stereotype. Me, as a consultant, and that is also what I teach in our course, is that you have to create a framework, and you have to give, from a very early stage on, you have to give the athletes some guidance, what to say, when and how. Not everybody will adhere. Sometimes there is emotion, that's fine, and that's good. We are all human beings. But then it has to be clear if one athlete goes over the top after a match and does a stupid post, that there is a procedure afterwards that clarifies, will I send an apology? Will I engage with the opponent or the competitor who I create a statement? So that has to be clear in terms of the framework that we're operating in. And that requires communications experts, that requires processes, procedures, and constant monitoring and permanent management.
Couldn't agree more, but we also see that sometimes you see, whether it's, let's say, football, cricket, any other sport, tennis, that you will have players who have roughly the same playing ability. They've also, in terms of statistics, had careers and results which were pretty similar to one another. But one of them happens to be commercially a lot more attractive than others. And when I say commercially more attractive, I mean you'll see more sponsors going there, more advertisers going there. Even though there's very little to choose between the two in terms of the playing ability that they have. What is that X factor? And is that X factor communication, which puts one athlete well above the others in terms of their commercial appeal?
I think there are two major aspects. And let's put it, it's probably easier to be explained with a tennis player or golf player, an individual athlete, rather than a team. Because in a team, the club is the team and the club is beyond every single player. Messi will disagree, but I think in principle this is right. In tennis, you see, I think those players will have the best contracts and the best sponsorship agreements and the best impact on their stakeholders, their fan base, and also even in the governing bodies, where the personality and the performance on the pitch match the most. If you, and this is not necessarily, we know Federer as a young player, he always went over the top, threw his racket, shouted, and I mean, I played tennis on a very low level, but competitively, and you see the character of someone on the court.
That's it.
What Federer managed is, through coaching and training, to change, to manage his manner and let his true character come out. And that is consistently, and some of that is probably not showing his character, but he has created a profile and a reputation which he adheres to. He is authentic in the way he presents himself. Djokovic is also authentic, but in a way that is not appealing for many. So the thing is to be authentic, keep it consistently throughout your career, on the court and off the court.
That's it.
And with all your means of communications, your website, your imagery that you use on the website, how you manage to be photographed from journalists how you talk to your wife in public, how you involve or not involve your children, how you behave in the lobby of the hotel. That all creates the reputation and the image. I distinguish between reputation and the image. The image you create through means of communications, the reputation you earn through behavior. And that are the, so if you look at Federer, he has the most impressive global brands on credit from, I mean, we can argue that Credit Suisse is still a brand in the banking, you know it better than me, in terms of reputation at the moment, but very, very international, high-level brands. And if you look at how he appears, he is the gentleman player, he behaves like that. After the match when he speaks, he's not afraid to show his tears, because that is his way of being. He's genuine and he's loved.
That's it.
Sorry for the long.
No, understood. Because it's always interesting, and I think the point that you made, that image is something that you create, and reputation is something that you earn. And if you can get that image and reputation right, then I think the chances are that you'll be much more successful than people around you.
Yeah, the mismatch, absolutely. The mismatch between image created by our advisors and reputation that you earn through behavior.
That's it. Then that inconsistency becomes very difficult for brands to identify with you.
Yeah.
So you also talked about the fact that there was a very close adjacency between businesses and sport. And there is hardly a life skill or a professional skill that you cannot learn from sport. As businesses now start to look to adjust to the new world, whether it's in terms of mental health, whether it's in terms of resilience, whether it's in terms of the whole thing about building immunity, fitness, work-life balance, all of which have gone to one extreme, as the whole corporate culture evolved. Do you see the role of sport becoming more and more pronounced in day-to-day business?
Business and the corporate world, in today's world, with all the challenges that we are facing, from climate change to a war that we are currently witnessing, sadly enough. Businesses in the corporate world have the means to reach so many people through their corporate structures, their employees. I think 70% of the adult people are employed in one shape or form through medium-sized and larger companies. So there is a responsibility. And then we have sports that creates so much emotion and commitment from the individual, and you have the team exercise, and you have resilience which is inevitably ingrained in sports by just competing and by exercising. And both are coming closer together because there are more and more sponsors and sponsorships and collaboration between the corporate world and sports. And sports itself, the athlete, the club, the federations, the associations have become businesses in their own right. So they're coming closer together, and together they can achieve so much more when they understand their needs and their opportunities to address the key issues. You just mentioned them, from mental health through all the other aspects of health and well-being. And we spoke earlier about that we are looking at the 17 UN Sustainability Goals, and more or less every individual goal with their over 200 sub-targets can be addressed in some shape or form with the means of sports, or at least with the contribution of sports and the collaboration between corporation, sports, and then we shouldn't forget the NGOs and the civil society who need to be brought on board.
So your first visit to India, right now we have the Indian Premier League on, the cricket league. Have you had the chance to catch up on it at all? I mean, I know you have very long hours here at the campus.
Yeah, the schedule is very tight. I'm witnessing the hype about the tournament and the competition, because I'm in the hotel where all the clubs are located. So there is a little bit of a downside. The pool is closed as of 10:30 for the players, but then you see the stadium is nearby.
That's it.
You see the thousands and thousands of
People.
young people, and then they're outside and they're waiting for, they're coming in, I don't know, somehow they sneak into the hotel, taking pictures, waiting for the stars, and they become an outside of the hotel, of course. And you see and you feel the value, the admiration, but also the link between the fans, and they are all playing, and they are all, I guess, in their spare time. And the responsibility on the other side of the actor, they are actors, of the athletes. And I'm wondering, when they are also in German we call it, they're in the tunnel when they go towards the pitch, and they don't look left or right. It's right, but they need to also open up to interact with their fan base and have a smile and a nice word.
No, absolutely. I mean, especially cricket in this country, and the cricketers are hero worship. And the bond between the fans and them is a very emotional one.
Yeah.
So you can see that when a player really performs well, the next day you read social media, they praise to the skies. And obviously, if you don't perform, then you are also brought down very quickly.
Yeah.
But we are a very emotional country, and specifically about sport, we tend to be very emotional. So one last question, which I'd like to ask you is that this is our first batch in AISTS India, and you've been teaching the cohort for the last couple of days. How would you say are they different to the typical batch that you see in Lausanne?
Of course, there is one culture.
Yes.
Although I think there was an old slogan, I think it was from another, it was not India, but it was a world in a nation.
Yes.
There is a lot of different types and different aspects. In Lausanne, we have really from China to Germany, it's multinational, multicultural, multi-language,
yes,
which gives it a different feel in the classroom. But it's also more challenging because there are so many different types, and it's more difficult to interact and to crack the distances that individual students may have and build up. Here it is very open, very interested is the wrong word, involved is the right word, very thoughtful, very knowledgeable about world of sports, not only cricket, it's football, of course, but also other. There are two members of the cohort who have played, or handball, which is my sport, basketball, the interest is absolutely broad.
Yes.
And the questions that they ask are absolutely relevant. They are questioning me, which is good. They should challenge the teacher, yes, or the lecturer. And they're very involved in the sense that they contribute. There's discussion, even though they're part of the cohort is online, contributing, chatty. It's a very nice experience.
Wonderful to hear that. Thank you so much for this visit. I mean, we've really enjoyed having you here, and I hope that you'll take back something as well from this and the experience of being in India and with our students.
Thank you very much.
Real pleasure.